Hey everybody, Joe Joseph here for thedailySheeple.com, and this is your news shot. I have to apologize for my voice. The next couple of days will probably be kind of rough as I'm going through that oh-so-lovely seasonal crud that seems to afflict most of us here in the fall. SHTFplan.com highlights the utter fail, the AntiFAIL, if you will, of this weekend's nationwide Soros-funded rallies, if you want to call them that. It says Antifa protests to remove Trump from office resulted in an absolute, total, and complete failure. It says despite the widespread attention in the press, the Refuse Fascism multi-city Antifa plan to remove Trump from office has completely failed, with protests in most cities turning out under 100 people who were at times outnumbered by the Trump supporters themselves that showed up to counter what the Soros-funded group had claimed to be millions of people intent on driving the fascist Trump regime out of office. The group had spent an unknown amount of money promoting the protests, even going as far as to take out a full-page ad in the New York Times. And on top of that, believe it or not, they also received widespread attention in the mainstream media. I'm going to stop here and say that this is a good thing, and it's also a bad thing. It's a good thing in that Antifa really is not as innocent as they claim to be. They are sworn socialists, communists, if you will, who think that it's best that government handles everything, which, of course, is probably the worst thing that you could ever possibly want, is to have a bunch of people with ambition go ahead and take your money without your, basically with your forced consent. And of course they know what's best for you, so they'll take care of it for you. And we've seen the results of that here in the United States. And it is not, well, a lot of people, I love the cognitive dissonance with, oh, where we live in the land of the free and the home of the brave, and everybody wears their red, white, and blue and everything else. And I got to tell you, absolutely delusional that these people that think they live in a free country just because they can go to the store without being harassed or without being perceived, without perceiving that they're being harassed. They're still being harassed, whether it be when they swipe their shopper's card, somebody's tracking their information to tailor maybe mail at home ads for, the products that you might want to use more often, or you're browsing, I just got done looking up this item that I saw in the store. Can I get it cheaper on Amazon? And you search it on Amazon, and next thing you know, you're seeing pop-up ads and ads in your mailbox and ads everywhere else for this item that you looked up that you don't want to be harassed about, but you end up being harassed about. There's a perceived sense of freedom and liberty when it just doesn't exist anymore. And we need to come to grips with that. I find it interesting that they use the term refuse fascism. It wasn't that long ago in our history that we faced the real threat, the real possibility of a fascist dictatorship being installed in this country, not elected, installed in this country. And it came very close if it wasn't for the efforts of one man. And that man was General Smedley Butler, the most decorated Marine Corps veteran ever in our nation's history. A man that won 2 medals of honor, but more importantly, penned the book War is a Racket, a essential must-read for anybody that wants to understand the true nature of our foreign wars and our foreign interventions. General Smedley Butler wrote about it, 90 pages, not a hard read, very easy to understand because he was a man that could communicate with the common folk. That's why he was so respected amongst his men. He never set himself above anybody else. And as a result, his career, which spanned a very long time, was full of that foreign intervention. He spent time in China, protecting Standard Oil's interest. This is the Marines down in South America, the fruits and Central America, the fruits and vegetables that were grown down there. He was down there protecting that because it was of the national interest of our corporations up here in America. Those are just two examples, but of course many are in that book. And he tells you why it is. And this was written at the turn of the 20th century, so over 100 years ago, and we haven't changed things since then. He tells you why that happened. But he also spilled the beans about a plot for a coup to take place to take Franklin Roosevelt out of office and install a fascist dictator who was going to be him. The powers that be, the Bush families, the other prominent families, the DuPonts were another family that wanted to take him out of the equation, FDR, and put somebody in, a figurehead that would do their bidding. And they totally missed the mark, thinking that Smedley Butler, who was pissed off because the government, the Great Depression had settled in, and if you know anything about the end of World War I going into the Great Depression, then you've heard of the Bonus Army. The Bonus Army was World War I vets that protested and set up camp in Washington, D.C. to protest to get their bonuses that they were promised early because of the Great Depression, because they were struggling to find work and they couldn't find work. The way they enticed a lot of people to join the army in World War I was promised them a bonus that would be paid, I think, after 25 years after the end of World War I, or 20 years or something like that. I can't remember the details, but I do know that it was not soon after the Great Depression that these vets started asking, hey, can we get this early? We're really suffering here. And a lot of them went to Washington and set up camp in a shanty town. And their representative, the guy that went down there that stood with them, was Smedley Butler, which is why these neocons thought that this guy was the guy. He could lead this bonus army in and take Washington over. They're already there. Instead, the president, Herbert Hoover, this is what got him taken out of office, got General Douglas MacArthur to go down there with guns and burn the place out and kick those vets out. That's what led to him getting kicked out of office, pissed all the bonus army. It played right into the hands of these control freaks. But they really, again, they totally miscalculated on Smedley Butler. So he went and told the government. The government then, in turn, created the McCormick-Dickstein Committee and looked into this plot to overthrow the government of the United States, which then, of course, by the time it got over, it got swept under the rug. The funding got pulled. It got shut down early. Why? Because these men of power don't let justice actually happen. And, of course, you want to see great examples of that. Look today on the television series The Blacklist. You can see that happen abound. That just happens all the time in that series, but it represents real life in Washington, D.C., just how dark it really is in the world of politics. So these protests, these Antifa protests, failed. This is a bad thing in that it shows the amount of apathy that's out there when it comes to getting out and being active. That's the real problem that I have with this. Not so much that you didn't have a protest or we did or we didn't. It's the fact that when you had a Soros-funded protest movement even fizzle. I mean, this guy will pay $15 an hour to anyone that'll go and raise hell for a couple hours, right? So there's a lot of people out there that are hurting, that rely on some of these what do you call it? Pay for a crowd type of organizations. They rely on that, and as a result, that's how they supplement their income. They didn't even show up for this. So, I mean, that's crazy that all this preparation goes into place for 50 to 100 people that show up at one of these. That's sad when it comes to protests, folks. And it's sad when it just goes to show you that there's a lot of people in this country that have lost hope. that feel like even protest at this point is pointless. And that's really a damn shame. I'm Joe Joseph. This was thedailysheeple.com's News Shot. Feel free to comment below and visit our website at thedailysheeple.com. Hashtag wake the flock up. Have a great day, everybody.